how to use table 8 to find the critical values for the chi-square distribution. You will need the level of significance alpha and the degrees of freedom. If you are doing the goodness of fit test, the degrees of freedom is number of categories minus 1. If you are doing the independence test, the degrees of freedom is the number of rows minus 1 times the number of columns minus 1. So let's suppose alpha is, and by the way, the goodness of fit and the independence tests are both right tail tests, and this table is designed to give us the area to the right of the critical value. So you just use the table as is. For example, if alpha was 1% and the degrees of freedom are 5, how do you find the critical value? It's very simple, as you can see. So this is the 0.01 right here, and degrees of freedom is 5. Where this row, this column meets, it's right here, 15.086. This is how to find the critical value for right tail test. Now let's suppose we have a two-tail test, and he gives us, for example, alpha is 10%. And the degrees of freedom, let's say it's 10. You will not see that in goodness of fit and independence test, but it's just to show you how to find the critical values using the table. And let's say alpha is 0.10 and degrees of freedom is 10, and we have a two-tail test. So here's what we do. Since we have two-tail test, alpha is going to be split up, amongst the two tails. So you divide 10% by 2, you get 5%. So let me show you. The 5%, it's right here. And with degrees of freedom 10. The one critical value, it's 18.307. Let me show you how to find the other critical values. Okay, I'd like you to count from the right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd like you to go to the other side and count 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the other critical value. It's at 95%. Did you notice that 5% and 95% add up to 100%? So you can find, the two critical values by symmetry. Once you find one, you can find the other one by symmetry. So one critical value is 3.940 and the other one is 18.307. Last example, let's say you're doing a goodness of fit test and alpha is 10% and degrees of freedom is 7. Okay, again, degrees of freedom, number of categories minus 1, so let's say it's 7. How do you find the critical value? You just go to 10% right here and then go down to 7, which is, as you can see, is 12.017. This is how you find the critical values using the chi-square distribution table.